Hey, some people YouTube, welcome back to another Bannerlord video. In this one, I'm going to be talking about vigor skills, the one-handed, two-handed polearms, and talk about some of their perks, right? But before we get started, I just want to remind that if we could get to 575 subscribers by Christmas, we'll be doing $25 gift card giveaway. I do another giveaways on Kick, and I'm on Discord. And by the way, if you didn't know, we do have channel membership. It's 99 cents, a dollar, if you want to support the channel and help me grow and do a bunch of more stuff. Do join that. Right? But with all that said, let's get into the video. So, I'm going to talk about vigor, like I said, one-handed, two-handed polearm, and which ones are more beneficial for you and which one is more beneficial for like a captain who's leading a different troop party. Because you're just one man, you can't lead, you can't be a ranger or archer and lead infantry. It's not as good as having a captain who is primarily leading your shield wall, who's leading your shock infantry, or somebody who's leading your pikemen or your cavalry, right? So you want to have multiple of them, different like noble wanderers, that you recruited, so they can help you make your army more effective. Right? Well, that said, combat skills are not necessarily super prioritized unless you just want to be a killing machine, pretty much. Right? Most people go bit of vigor, control, maybe endurance, and then social. But we're not here to talk about all that. We talk about vigor. Vigor is your melee stuff, right? The more vigor you have, the higher you can get to on your points, right? So if you put 5 focus points and you have 8 vigor, you can get to 300. If you have 10 vigor and 5 focus points, you get to 330, right? Which depends, which will increase certain stuff. Like for polearm, it will increase my polearm speed and damage. For two-handed, same thing. One-handed, same, right? Now let's talk about one-handed. One-handed, it's self-explanatory. It's one-hand weapon and a shield, right? So let's look at the perks. You have wrapped handles, which gives you 20% handling to one-handed weapons and 30 combat skill to your troops. And then you have basher, right? 50% damage and local stun durations with shield bashes and -4 damage taken by infantry while on the shield wall. So, person and captain kind of helps you, because captain, if you lead the party, you could also be this captain, right? So I like to take basher for myself because I shield bash more than the enemy, right, or the AI. So for the captain, I would definitely take wrapped handles because they give 30% combat skill to the troops in the formation. For the second one, we have Swift Strike, which gives 2 swing speed with one-handed weapons and governor stuff, right? And to be blunt, it also gives governor stuff and +5 damage with the axes and maces. This one, for yourself, it depends what you want to use. Do you want to use swords or do you want to use maces or axes? Take whatever. If it's for a governor, I definitely take Swift Strike because one militia, a recruitment and government summit, they don't eat food, so that's good. Then you have cavalry, which is 5% damage to one-handed weapons while mounted, and for a captain, it's 5% melee damage by cavalry troops in your formation. Or shield bearer removes movement penalty speed removed. Movement speed penalty of wielding shields, and for captain, 3% movement speed to infantry information. Honestly, I don't really like cavalry because, at least for a captain, because most of the time, your cavalry just charge in and you can pull them out. But that's also not bad. Personally, I would take shield bearer if I'm with the shield just to remove that penalty. For captain, same thing, because your troops will be able to run forward more, faster, or move faster, so you can close that gap, right? Then at 100 skill, you take duelist, you have duelist, which gives you 20% damage while wielding one-handed weapon without a shield, and doubles the amount of renown gained from tournaments. Or training +2 hit points and 5% experience to melee troops in your party after every battle, right? None of this are great for captain. Right? If you want to have him a little more HP, you take trainer. Right? If you don't have him, if you have him without a shield, duelist is also not bad. Personally, I would take trainer because I'll be the party leader. You know, so that would help. And getting 2 more hit points since I like to charge in is not bad. We have arrow catcher at 125, larger shield protection against projectiles, and larger shield protection against projectile to my troops in formation for the captain. Then we have shield wall, minus 20 damage to your shields while blocking in the wrong direction. Larger shield protection against air projectiles to your troops in formation while in the shield wall formation. Honestly, I would take arrow catcher. You know, especially if you're going against like Crusade with horse archers or Britannians, or pretty much anybody who has huge number of archers. I would definitely stick with the arrow catcher because it gives you large air protection, and you know you don't want to get hit by arrows. Now for 150, we have Corpse a Corpse, which is for party leader 10% total experience gain as a bonus to infantry after battle. Governor stuff, you know, and then for military traditions, which is +2 experience to infantry in your party for party leader and governor stuff. For myself, if I'm heavy infantry, I would definitely take military tradition so they can level up faster. And if I'm not having as much easy time leveling my infantry, Corpse of Corpse is not bad. For governor, honestly, I would take military tradition just to get a little bit less wages, especially if my town is full of garrison troops. Now, for 175, you have lead by example, which is 5% experience to troops in your party after every battle, with +5 starting battle morale to your troops. Right? And then stand united, the other one, more morale if you're outnumbered, and governor stuff. Personally, if I'm playing, I'll probably take lead by example because more experience to my troops, and battle morale early is not bad. If you have a governor, obviously stand united is the only one that gives bonus, you know. For 200, you have fleet or foot, more combat movement speed for personal, and for captain, more movement speed to infantry in my formation. We have steel core shields, personal, minus 10 damage to your shields, and captain, minus 10% damage to shields in your formation. This one is a bit tricky. It depends. If you having a lot of shields and you're fighting enemies, steel core shields is not bad, just so they don't break. But if you have high tier troops, steel core shields not as effective because those shields are more tanky. So I would take fleet of foot just so you have more movement speed to catch up to your enemies. Then at 225 you have deadly purpose, more damage with one-handed weapons, and for captain more damage by infantry in my formation. You have unwavering defense, 5 more hit points. For myself and party leader, 10 more hit points in our party. Personally, for captain, I would only take deadly purpose because the other one does not have any captain perks, and it gives more melee weapon damage to my troops. And personal, I would take unwavering defense. Gives me 5 more HP, gives all my infantry 10 more HP, making them take a little more damage. Now, at 250, I have Trinket armor, 10% more armor penetration melee attacks, and minus 20 recruitment cost of infantry. We have prestige, 50% damage against shields with one-handed weapons, and party limit of 15. Personally, I'd say prestige because party limit is huge. Getting 15 more troops is massive, right? Versus, you know, doing more damage. Party prestige all the way. And then at 300 or 275, you have Way of the Sword. Plus 0.2 attack speed with one-handed weapons for every skill point above 250, and plus 0.5 damage with one-handed weapons for every skill above 250. That's the only one you take. It's pretty good. You can build your one-handed class pretty badass. That's not bad. So about two-handed. I utilize this for primarily shock infantry. You know, the Sturgeon heroic line breakers, Manaliatones, you know, stuff like that. Because they are primarily two-handed, be it sword, polearm, or not polearm, sorry, sword, axe, stuff like that. Manaliatones, sorry, will not be there. Manaliatones will be in the polearm. But we have strong grip, which is 10% handling to two-handed weapons, And for captains, plus 3200 skill to troops in your formation. And we have wood chopper, 30% damage to shields with 200 weapons. And for captain, more damage against shields by troops in your formation. Personally, I would take wood chopper because allows me to break the enemy shields a little bit more. And for my captain, I would take the strong grip because it gives them 30% to two-handed skills to troops in your formation. It's pretty nice, right? Because I move my two-handed troops to behind the enemy to go after the archers if I can, if I don't have cav, or just go behind the infantry and attack them from the back or the sides. Now it's 50, we have head basher, which is more damage with axes and maces, or for captain, just more damage by infantry. And then we have on the edge, it gives us more swing speed for us or for the captain by infantry or to infantry. Personally, it just depends what you want. If you're axes and maces, you take head basher. If you're swords, you take on the edge. Same thing for your captain. Do you want your troops to swing faster? You take on the edge, which is not bad. A person would take on the edge for the captain as well, unless he is axes and clubs, you know. The 2% damage is also not bad, but allow them to swing a little faster. It's pretty good. At 75, we have Baptized in Blood, 5% experience to infantry in your party for each enemy you kill with two-handed weapons, and 5% more experience to melee troops in your party after every battle for party leader. For Show of Strength, which is 30% chance of knocking the enemy down with a heavy hit, and minus 20% recruitment cost of infantry. Personally, Baptized in Blood. Captain could also be that because, you know, actually captain doesn't matter. You can take Show of Strength. Now at 100, you have Beast Slayer, 50% damage to mounts with two-handed weapons, plus 10% damage to mounts by troops in your formation. Or you have Shield Breaker, 40% damage to shields with two-handed weapons, and for captain, 10% damage against shields by troops in your formation. I usually take Shield Breaker for this one because I don't like to go against cavalry with two-handed because I usually miss and get hit pretty bad. But Shieldbreaker, if you take Shieldbreaker and you take Wood Chopper, you can do massive damage to shields and break like shields a lot easier. The captain, personally, Beast Slayer is not bad because they will go after anybody. So allowing to do more damage to mounts is not bad. But you could also take Shieldbreaker if you're fighting primarily Sturgeons. At 125, you have Berserker, which is 20% damage to two-handed weapons while you have less than half of your hit points, and for Governor, you less wages. Or you have Confidence, which is 15% more damage with heavy weapons while you have more than 90% of your hit points, and for Governor, it's more build speed. I usually take Berserker because I like to charge in and usually take a lot of damage, which will activate Berserker, will give me more damage when I have less than half health. If you're playing a little more safer or don't get hit as much, Confidence is also not bad. For Governor, I would take Berserker for 10% wages reduction. Obviously, 150 is the only one you can take, which is you can deflect projectiles two-handed swords by blocking, and for Governor, it gives you 10% more experience to garrison troops in governed settlement. I've never primarily deflected arrows or projectiles with two-handed swords by blocking, so yeah. At 175, you have Hope, which is 30% battle morale effect to friendly troops with your two-handed skill or two-handed kills and plus 5 party limit. Or you have Terror, which gives you 20% battle morale effect to enemy troops with two-handed kills and 10% more prisoner limit. I take Hope because 5% party leader, or not 5%, sorry, plus 5 party leader is huge. If you don't care about it, that one is personal. I don't see Terror being useful because prisoner limit is not as effective, you know. And 20% battle morale effect to enemy troops with your two-handed kills is not bad, but when you're just by yourself or like you have a huge army, that's not gonna matter as much because you know your troops will get rid of most enemies before you do, unless you run ahead of them. So Hope would be more useful. Now we take a 200 Reckless Charge, which is 20% damage from speed with 200 weapons while on foot. And for the captain, it gives you 2% damage to movement speed to infantry in your formation. Apologize for that because control died. Or you have the hides, which gives you 5% or 5 point to HP, or for party leader, 5 HP to your troops. Personally, I take the hides for myself because more HP for me and more HP to my troops in the party. For captain, reckless charge, gives more damage and movement speed. 225, you have Blade Master, which is 10% damage with two-handed weapons, and plus 2 attack speed 2 for infantry in your formation, which is for the captain. Or you have Vandal. For yourself, it's 25% armor penetration with my attacks, and for captain, it's 20% damage against destructible objects by troops in your formation. Personally, I take Vandal, because armor penetration will allow you to take down heavily armored units a little bit faster. For captain, Blade Master, more attack speed. Because more damage against destructible objects is not as useful because it's the gates and the siege weapons. And for 250, where the Great Axe gives you plus 0.2 attack speed with two-handed weapons for every skill point above 250, and 0.5 more damage with two-handed weapons for every skill point above 250. It's pretty good. Now let's talk about polearms. Last but certainly not least, it is used primarily for if you have pikemen, Menaliatons, and cavalry. Some of the cavalry, actually. So you have at 25 you have cavalry, which is 2% damage with polearms while mounted, and for captain it's damage by cavalry troops in your formation. Or you have pikemen, more damage with polearms while on foot, and for captain plus 2 damage by cavalry troops in your formation. If you are on foot like a pikeman, you take pikemen. If you're on cavalry, you take cavalry. Personally, for captain, I would take as well cavalry, because he would more than likely be mounted. Then at 50 you have braced, which is 25% chance of dismounting enemy cavalry with a heavy hit, and for captain, 10% damage by infantry in your formation against cavalry. Or you have keep it at bay, gives you 30% chance of knocking enemies with a thrust attack made with polearm, and you have governor, which is +1 militia recruitment in governed settlements. I personally take brace for myself because I can dismount enemy cavalry with a heavy hit. Captain, I would not take. You could take brace, but it's infantry and you're on cavalry. I usually lead the cavalry, so braced is what I take to help them. And for governor, the only thing I would take is keep it at bay plus more militia recruitment, or is pretty massive. Now to 75 you have clean thrust, 10% thrust damage with polearms, and for captain is 30% pole skill to infantry in your formation. And you also have swift swing. Apologize, I can't really speak today. I don't know why. You have +5 swing speed with polearms for yourself, and for captain it's +2 swing speed to infantry in your formation. For this one, if you use weapons that only thrust, take clean thrust. For captain, you also take it even if they don't have the thrust weapons. If they have the glaive and stuff, you still take it because actually no, sorry about that. For captain, honestly I wouldn't take it, any of those, because unless you have the pikeman. If you have pikeman, yeah, clean thrust, but besides that, nothing captain wise. If you have swing weapons, take swift swing. Then at 100 you have footwork. For yourself, it gives you 2% combat movement speed with polearms, and for captain it's movement speed to infantry in your formation. We have hard knock, 25% chance of knocking an enemy down with a heavy hit, and for your party leader, it gives you 3.3 HP to infantry in your party. It's primarily, unfortunately it's not as cavalry heavy. There are some cavalry perks, but personally I would take hard knock, giving myself more chance to knock an enemy down with a heavy hit, and it gives me more HP. Captain, unless you have pikemen, I wouldn't really take any of them. If you do have pikemen, footwork will also not be bad, because hard knock doesn't give you captain perks. Then at 125 you have lancer, which is 20% bonus from speed with polearms while mounted, and for captain it's 30% damage bonus from speed with polearms by troops in your formation. We have steed killer, 70% damage to mounts with polearms, or captain, 30% damage to mounts by infantry in your formation. Personally, if you're on foot, you definitely want to take steed killer. And if you have pikemen or Menaliaton, stuff like that, definitely also takes steed killer, just so they can get rid of the mounts faster and then make those cavalry be on foot. If you're mounted, if you're cavalry, definitely take lancer. If you have if you have a captain who's in charge of cavalry, take lancer as well. You know. Now at 150 you have guards, which is 50% damage when you hit an enemy in the head with polearms, and governor stuff, which is gives you 20% increased gain to XP gain to garrison cavalry in governed towns. We have skewer, which is 30% chance of your land staying couched after a kill, and governor gives you security. For yourself, if you primarily couch enemies, skewer is not bad because it allows you to keep the lands couched after a kill. You have a chance. So, if you have like a glaive, definitely take guards. Captain doesn't matter, but for a governor, I would definitely take more security because I don't usually keep the cavalry in the garrison or in governed settlements because they're not as good. You want to keep infantry and archers there. At 175, you have phalanx, which is 30% melee weapon skill to troops in your party while in shield formation. And for captain, more damage with polearms by troops in your formation. Or you have standard barrel, minus 20% battle morale loss to troops in your formation, and governors minus 20% garrison wages of cavalry in government settlements. Honestly, none of those are amazing, because phalanx is only useful if you have like shield wall, you have pikemen, stuff like that. You know, if you don't have the pikemen or spearmen or benevolence, I would not use phalanx. You know, personally, it's none of them are good. Maybe standard bearer, but as for a captain, for yourself, none. It's both crappy if you're on cavalry. Then at 200 you have drills, which is party leader gives you 1 bonus daily experience to your troops in formation or in your party, and governor gives you more militia recruitment in governed settlements. You also have hardy frontline, plus 5 hit points to troops in your party, and party leader gives you minus 20 recruitment cost of infantry. Personally, I would take hardline just for more HP. Recruitment cost of infantry will also help if you have some infantry, right? For you could also for governor you would take drills just for more militia, right? At 225 you have unstoppable force, which is triple couch lands damage against shields, and captain gives 30% damage bonus from speeds with polearms to cavalry in your formation. We have sure-footed, plus 50 defense against mount charge damage, and for captain 30% defense against mount charge damage to troops in your formation. If I do couch lands, take triple or unstoppable just for that triple damage, so you can get rid of the enemy shields. Captain, again, that is what you want. If you are in a pikeman and you against primarily like charging cavalry, you take sure-footed, but you could also take unstoppable force. That's kind of your preference. Both are I usually don't use pikemen, so I'm sorry about that. At 250 you have counterweight, which is plus 15 handling of swingable polearms, and for captain gives 20 polearm skill to troops in your formation. You have sharpened tip, which is 5% damage with thrust attacks made with polearms, and for captain it's 5% damage with thrust attacks by troops in your formation. I don't usually use couch lances. If you do, or you do thrust attacks, sharpened tip is amazing. Also, if you have a primarily cavalry that's use thrust attacks with their polearms, for captain, take sharpened tip. If you have like Conguard with their swingable polearms, or if you take glaive, definitely take counterweight. Right? Also, counterweight will also not be bad if you just want to give your cavalry more polearm skills. And at 275, you have the Way of the Spear, plus 0.2 attack speed with polearms for every skill point above 250, and plus 0.5 damage with polearms for every skill point above 250. It's pretty good. Out of all of them, honestly, the best one I would more than likely use is two-handed or polearm, because I don't usually use one-handed, but all those melee skills are not bad in themselves. If you're using cavalry, polearm is not the greatest. It goes for both infantry primarily and a little bit of cavalry. So yeah, do that what you want. Hopefully this will help you figure out the perks that you want to take for whichever vigor skill that you have. Be it one-handed, two-handed, polearm. But with all that said, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to stay awesome. I'll see you in the next one, and bye-bye.